I want you to start by making a slip knot the same way that you made a slip knot in the Learn to Knit scarf kit, except I want you to use two ends. You can use two ends of two different yarns, two different balls of yarn, or you can use the inside and the outside end of the same ball of yarn. Okay. This is just a placeholder. It's just to anchor the yarn onto the needle. We're actually going to be pulling this loop off at the end. So there's that. And then you're going to do what's called the long tail cast on. What you do is you have two ends of yarn going at the same time. You use your left hand and you bring your pointer finger and your thumb in between the two strands and kind of gently hold the rest of the yarn with your middle ring finger and pinky. All right, then you're going to open up your fingers like this, and you're going to bring the yarn from your thumb up Let's try that again. You're going to bring the yarn you're going to bring the needle from your thumb up and from your index finger down, and bring the index finger yarn through the thumb loop, and then pull it snug. So once you get into position here, you bring this front piece of yarn over, so you're opening up the hole, and then you're bringing this front piece of yarn from your index finger through the hole that you just made and making it snug. Just so you know, whatever yarn is around your thumb, that's what's going to end up on the bottom of this chain. And then whatever yarn is on your index finger, that's going to end up on the needle. So you're bringing this loop open and catching the loop from your index finger, like that. And now you're going to do this as many times as you need to get stitches on the needle, which for a full-size blanket is 140 stitches. And keep yourself from having to count to 140 every time. As you stop and count your stitches, I like to use stitch markers or safety pins to mark my place. So let's see how far we've gotten. Don't count this one, because remember, we're going to pull that out at the end. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to do 14 and then place a stitch marker. And then you can just keep on adding stitches right past the stitch marker. Why did I choose 14? Because for this pattern, I'm going to have you cast on 140 altogether. So 10 times 14. If you don't have that many markers, you can do every 50, whatever you like. And of course, you don't have to mark anything with stitch markers, but this definitely helps save you time counting all those stitches. When you're done casting on, I want you to cut one of these tails, and then you'll knit with the other ball of yarn or with the other end. And the pattern for this blanket is knit 14, purl 14, and then repeat to the end of the row. So you're going to be knitting 14 and then purling 14 a total of 5 times. 28 times 5, 140. Okay, so we knit, and then after you've counted to 14, if you want to put a stitch marker there to remind you where to switch, I think that's an excellent idea. You could even use 2 different color stitch markers, one for when it's time to purl and one for when it's time to knit. All right, let's see how we're doing here. We've got 5, 10, 12, 13, and 14. Now let me show you what it's like when you're switching from knitting, which we've just been doing, to purling. The most important thing is to bring the yarn in front of the work. So I just brought it between the needles and to the front, and then you're going to go from right to left, scooping your right needle in front of your left needle, wrap it around, and then bring that new loop to the back and off. So that's your first purl, and we're going to do 13 more. You can also look at your Learn to Knit ebook if you need a reminder on how to purl. All right, and of course I've lost count. Do a couple more. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. 5, 10, 11, 12, and 14. Now it's time to knit again, and you do the opposite direction. You bring the yarn between the needles and to the back. And then the right needle goes between the first 2 stitches, through the first loop to the back, wrap around, bring the new loop to the front. And there's your first knit. I'm going to knit 13 more and then keep alternating to the end of the row. Now, how do you go back if you accidentally knit too many or purl too many? So I knit 15 by mistake. So we're going to do something which is called tinking, which is the word knit backwards, tink. This knit needs to become a purl. So I'm going to put the left-hand needle into the stitch below, pull the right-hand needle out, and pull the old stitch. All right, and then I'm going to just purl this. Now let's say I wanted it to be a knit again. I could poke the left-hand needle through the old stitch again, or since this yarn has pretty good memory, it's not going to slither away from you, you could pull the right-hand needle out altogether and just pull gently and thread that old loop on the left-hand needle again. Okay, but we do want it to be we do want it to be a purl, so I'm going to go ahead and purl. Here's how you slip a stitch marker from one needle to the other. So I'm just finishing a purl section and then I'm going to knit. So I purl and then I just slip the stitch marker from one needle to the other. You can even do that with the needle itself. And now it's time to knit. So I've got to bring the yarn back and keep on knitting. When you get to the end of the row, I have 4 more purls left and then this extra bump that we started at the beginning. So just want to show you how to change rows. So we've got 3, 2, 1 more purl, and then I want you to just take the needle out altogether and take that knot out. Now you're ready to switch hands. So this becomes your new left needle, and then pick up the other end of the needle here. And the second row is the same as the first. You're going to knit 14, purl 14, knit 14, purl 14, all the way to the end. You're going to do that for a total of 18 rows.